This happened not long ago, about 3 months after I moved here. I was 34 and trying to start fresh after a tough breakup. I found myself at this bus stop a lot, especially late at night, waiting for the last bus to take me home. The streetlights flickered softly, casting long shadows that danced in the chill of fall. I remember the first time I saw her. It was close to midnight. I was scrolling through my phone when I noticed a figure at the far end of the platform. The woman stood there, silent, with disheveled hair and an uneasy expression. Her clothes looked old and wrinkled. It was strange, the way she just stared ahead, seemingly lost. I thought I should say something, maybe ask if she needed help, but I hesitated. Over the next few weeks, I saw her again. She appeared out of nowhere, always in the same place, always acting oddly. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't shake the feeling. One night, I was speaking softly to myself about my day when she suddenly echoed my words. It freaked me out. I didn't know how to respond. I felt cold, like ice was running down my spine. I just stared at her, but she didn't say anything else. Other people in the neighborhood began to talk about her. I heard whispers when I passed the coffee shop or the grocery store. Some mentioned that she was cursed, or that something terrible happened to her years ago. I didn't know what to believe, or if I should believe anything at all. Maybe they were looking for a story to explain her presence. I wanted to know more, but every time I thought about reaching out, my heart started to race, and I felt this creeping doubt. Was I imagining things? The cold air felt heavier, pressing in on me. I even questioned if I was losing my mind. Maybe it was all the stress from moving, looking for reassurance, and finding none. I was back at the bus stop one rainy evening, drenched and chilled to the bone. I glanced around, searching for her. She emerged again, standing rigid as if she were a part of the night itself. I couldn't help but ask, "Are you lost?" I could barely get the words out. The stillness was overwhelming. Then she smiled, a twisted, unnatural grin. "I know you, Jessica," she said, her voice soft yet menacing. My stomach dropped. I didn't respond. I just stood there, frozen. The bus headlights cut through the darkness, and I wanted to run. As the bus arrived, I turned to look at her one last time. She was gone. The spot where she had stood was empty, just shadows pooling beneath the streetlight. Confusion washed over me. I wanted to dismiss it, to think maybe I had imagined it all, but I couldn't shake it off. What did she mean? Why did I feel more terrified than ever? I hurried onto the bus, my heart still racing. I kept looking out the window, hoping not to see her again. But the night felt heavy, and I knew it wasn't over. The next few days dragged on like an endless fog. I tried to focus on my work, but my mind kept drifting back to that night. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. That grin haunted me, creeping in during quiet moments. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled into something that didn't belong to me. On my way home from work a few days later, I decided to stop at the park nearby. I needed a distraction, even just for a moment. As I walked through the paths lined with bare trees, the leaves crunched under my feet. I spotted a small group of people gathered near the playground. Their hushed voices piqued my curiosity. I approached, taking a side glance at what they were discussing. It was a woman, sitting on the grass with her head in her hands, surrounded by concerned strangers. Their murmurs floated through the air, punctuating the otherwise quiet neighborhood. "Saw her again, late last night by the bus stop," one of them said. My heart skipped. They were talking about her. I stood back, pretending to mind my own business. I inched closer, trying to catch more details. One man was explaining how he had seen the woman come and go, always alone. "It's like she's waiting for something or someone that never comes," he said. "It's enough to give you chills." Chills ran down my spine as confirmation washed over me. This woman might not only be haunting my thoughts, she was disturbing others too. I listened, holding my breath. "That's not all," Another voice cut in. "Last week, after she left, I found something strange. A doll, just lying there." The crowd gasped, and the conversation shifted. I couldn't believe it. What did a doll have to do with her? The man mentioned how it had an expression that seemed almost lifelike, eyes wide open. My intuition nudged me. Maybe I needed to see this doll myself. I didn't want to be trapped in my thoughts anymore. I took a step back, deciding I would visit that bus stop again. Perhaps this time I would face my fears head on. But a small voice in my head warned me against it. The last encounter left me shaken, and after all the stories I heard, what if it was more than just a woman? That evening, I found myself at the bus stop again. The night was eerily quiet, the kind that felt like a breath held painfully long. I stood in the soft glow from the flickering streetlight, my heart beating louder than the distant traffic. I wanted to leave. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw something glinting in the shadows. I hesitated, but curiosity pulled me closer. I walked toward it, feeling the air grow thick with tension. As I reached down to pick it up, I realized it was something small and delicate, a porcelain doll, its face cracked but still eerily beautiful. That's when I heard it. A whisper threaded through the night. "I found you." My heart raced as I turned sharply. The bus stop was empty, but behind me I felt her presence. She was back, and this time I had no idea what she wanted. My mind raced as I gripped the doll tighter, feeling its cold surface under my fingers. I wanted to run, to leave this place behind, but my feet felt glued to the ground. Somewhere in the depths of my mind, a complete battle raged. Was this the moment I had feared, or was it the moment I had been searching for? The whisper echoed again, creeping into my thoughts. "I found you." I turned slowly, trying to gather my courage. And there she was, standing just a few feet away. The same long hair flowed around her shoulders like dark water, and that same twisted grin was plastered across her face. My heart thudded in my chest. "Who are you?" I blurted out, surprised by my own voice. It cracked, betraying my panic. She stepped closer, her movements fluid and strangely graceful. I wanted to back away, but I remained rooted. "Don't you want to play?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. The playful tone was terrifying. It unsettled me more than the way she appeared, as if she belonged in a different world entirely. "I've been lonely." I felt an urge to sympathize, but fear gripped me tight. Play? What kind of play? My instincts screamed for me to run, yet I stayed transfixed. She raised her hand, pointing at the doll I was still holding. "Do you see her?" Her smile widened, and something about it sent chills through me. "She has all the answers." I blinked at the doll, its cracked face reflecting the dim light. It felt heavier in my grasp. I instinctively stepped back, but her attention remained fixed on me. She knows where I come from. With sudden clarity, I realized this doll was important, and it wasn't just an ordinary toy. The way she spoke made me feel like this doll represented something sinister. "What do you mean? What does that even mean?" I forced each word out, urgency pumping through my veins. The woman laughed softly, a sound that was both whimsical and chilling. "You'll find out soon enough," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Just give it back to me." "Back to you?" My mind was spinning. I didn't want to give anything up. I wanted answers. "If you want it so much, tell me why." Her expression changed, becoming serious and almost sad. You don't understand, do you? In this game, we're all bound to our choices. I felt a rippling tension between us. Something deeper than a casual conversation lingered in the air. I held the doll tightly, afraid of what might happen if I released it. What kind of choices? Then everything shifted. The temperature dropped, and I could see my breath in front of me. A shadow behind her flickered like an old film reel, warping its image. I squinted as the outline of a figure began to form. Your decision will not only change your fate, but hers as well, the woman said, her voice becoming distant, echoing as the shadow grew larger. Panic surged in my chest. The figure was no longer just an outline. It was a presence. Was it here for me or for her? Then I saw it, an exact replica of the doll in her hands, grinning just like the one I clutched. My throat went dry. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, desperate for answers. And before I could brace myself for what was to come, the darkness consumed everything. I awoke on the ground, gasping for breath. My heart raced as I looked around. I was no longer in the alley. I was at a bus stop, one I recognized from my neighborhood. The cold metal bench beneath me felt familiar, yet the shadows seemed deeper than usual. Fog clung to the edges of the streetlight's glow. The doll was still in my hands, its eyes glimmering as if it held secrets I was afraid to uncover. I glanced around, half expecting to see her standing there, but the space was empty. It felt eerie in its silence. My mind spun with questions. Had I really just been talking to her? Had I imagined the dark presence? I shook my head, attempting to clear the jumble of thoughts. I needed to focus. What were the choices I had to make? Then I remembered her words. In this game, we're all bound to our choices. What did that mean for me? Was I caught in something bigger than I understood? I hugged the doll closer, feeling a connection to it I couldn't quite explain. Suddenly, I heard footsteps in the distance. I squinted through the fog, my heart pounding again. A figure emerged, moving toward me through the mist. My instincts screamed for me to run, but I was rooted again. The closer this person came, the more familiar they looked. "Hey, are you all right?" It was my friend, Clara. She looked concerned as she approached. Relief washed over me, but confusion quickly followed. "What are you doing here?" I managed to say. "I was looking for you. You disappeared. Your phone was off. I was worried sick," she replied, glancing around as if searching for something hidden in the shadows. I don't know," I stammered, still gripping the doll tightly. "I think something really weird just happened." Clara looked at me, her brow furrowing. "You mean weird like what? Do you want to go home?" As I considered her question, I saw it, out of the corner of my eye, the shadow that had flickered earlier. It was small, yet dark, creeping closer to Clara. Panic shot through me. "Clara, move!" I shouted, my voice cracking. She turned to look where I was pointing, confusion flashing across her face as the shadow lunged toward her. I didn't think, I acted. I lunged forward, my arm extending to push her aside. I didn't know what would happen if it touched her, but I couldn't let that happen. Then, everything went dark again. I squeezed my eyes shut, clutching the doll harder. I didn't want to be in this nightmare anymore. My breaths came fast, and I felt my heartbeat in my ears. What had I gotten her involved in? When the darkness lifted, I found myself standing alone again. No bus stop, no Clara, just me and the weight of the doll in my hands. A cold shudder ran down my spine. What had I done? Or worse, what had I unleashed? I looked down at the doll, whispering, "What is this? What do you want from me?" But it remained silent, its grin seeming to widen as if it knew something I did not. I would need to find Clara and understand what was happening. But before I could move, I sensed it. A presence in the air was watching me. And this time, I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The doll's eyes seemed to shimmer in the low light, drawing my attention as if daring me to understand its purpose. I forced myself to look away, focusing on my surroundings. The mist swirled thicker now, curling around the darkened street. I needed to find Clara. The thought of her alone, possibly in danger, made my heart race once more. I pressed forward, scanning the area as I walked. Every crackle of leaves underfoot echoed in the silence, amplifying my unease. The fog parted slightly, revealing the outline of a small park nearby. The swings creaked as if stirred by an unseen hand. I moved toward them, calling out for Clara. "Clara, are you there?" My voice broke through the stillness, swallowed almost immediately by the thick air. I continued my search, desperately hoping I'd spot her familiar figure. As I reached the center of the park, I paused. A chill crawled up my spine. Was I being followed? I turned quickly, but saw nothing, just shadows flitting at the edge of my vision. Then, something strange caught my attention. In the soft light, a flash of red appeared at the edge of the path. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding with each step. As I got closer, I realized it was a red scarf, one that Clara often wore. I picked it up, feeling a wave of relief and dread. If this was hers, she had to be close. I tucked the scarf into my pocket, determined to keep searching. Just then, a low growl rumbled from the shadows. My breath hitched in my throat. I froze, adrenaline crashing into me. Like a wave, I scanned the darkness again, trying to pinpoint the source. Then I saw it, a pair of glowing eyes peering at me from behind a tree. My body screamed to run, but I couldn't tear my gaze away. The figure slinked forward, revealing a small dog, dirtied and disheveled. Relief surged through me, quickly chased by confusion. "Are you lost?" I asked, crouching down slowly. The dog whimpered, edging closer. But before I could reach out, the sensation of being watched returned, stronger this time. I turned again, and my heart dropped. From the shadows emerged a woman. Her figure was small and slight, but there was something distinctly unsettling about the way she moved. She wore a long, tattered coat that caught the wind, and her dark hair hung in tangled curls around her face. A chill ran deep in my bones. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. My instincts kicked in, and despite the fear clawing at me, something compelled me to step closer. My sister is in danger. You have to help us." I opened my mouth to respond, but she pointed to the spot behind her. "The doll," she said urgently, her eyes fixed on the porcelain figure in my hands. "You don't understand what you're holding." My stomach twisted. Was I supposed to trust her? Part of me screamed to run, but her gaze held something that felt familiar. "What do you mean?" I pressed, my voice trembling. Suddenly, the growl returned, deeper this time. The small dog barked as shadows swelled around us, swallowing the light. "You have to choose," the woman said, her face a mask of desperation. "Now." Then came a piercing scream from somewhere off in the distance. It was Clara's voice, and every instinct inside me blared for action. I had to choose, stay and confront whatever this woman was connected to, or rush to save my friend. "Go," she urged as the shadows closed in. I hesitated, torn between two terrifying paths. Then I dashed into the dark, knowing I had little time to figure this out. I sprinted down the park's path, my heart racing, adrenaline flooding my veins. The fog thickened around me, swallowing everything in a haze. I could barely see, just the dim outline of trees and the faintest glow from a distant street lamp. Each step felt heavy, like I was running through water. "Clara!" I shouted again, my voice cracking. I stopped to listen, hoping for a response. Only silence met me. I turned my head from side to side. The shadows seemed alive and were closing in again. The scream I had heard echoed in my mind, sharp and piercing. Was she really in danger? The image of the desperate woman crossed my thoughts. What did she mean about the doll? It felt heavy in my bag, a weight that now brought dread instead of curiosity. I forced myself to focus on the task at hand. I had to find Clara. She could be hurt or worse. I veered left, heading toward the darker edges of the park, where the trees grew thicker and the fog was denser. Just then I heard it again, a soft whimpering, muffled but distinct, coming from behind a bush. My instincts kicked in, and I crouched low, heart pounding. "Clara?" I called softly, creeping closer. As I moved near the bush, a small body came into view. It was Clara's backpack, the one she took when we went on our hikes. Relief washed over me momentarily, but it was quickly crushed by unease. Why would she leave that behind? Then the whimpering came again, but it was different this time. I looked closer and saw a small boy crouched beside the backpack, tears streaming down his dirty cheeks. "Where's my sister?" he cried, his voice hoarse. "Your sister?" I asked, taken aback. "Do you know Clara?" He nodded vigorously, eyes wide with fear. "She was with me. We were playing, but then she disappeared. Please help me find her." The boy's voice cracked with panic, and I felt my chest tighten. This couldn't be a coincidence. It had to be connected. "Stay close to me," I said, trying to sound reassuring. He grasped my hand as we moved together further down the park path. The fog felt heavier here, and shadows loomed unnaturally among the trees. "What happened?" I whispered, not sure if he could hear me over the rising fog. "I don't know. She just vanished. I was right here," he cried out, looking toward the deepening shadows. "Then there was that woman. She made a sound, and—" He paused, swallowing hard. "I don't want to think about it." That sent a shiver up my spine. The woman? Was she looking for Clara too, or was she someone I should fear? Before I could dwell on it, a sharp howl pierced the air, sending a tremor through my body. I held the boy tighter. "We need to keep moving," I urged. Then everything went dark. The streetlights flickered, and the fog shifted violently, swirling like a storm around us. Panic gripped me, and in that moment I felt a pull tugging me toward the shadows. "Run!" I shouted, adrenaline kicking into overdrive as I yanked the boy with me, racing back down the path. I had to get out of this fog. I had to find Clara. But as we turned, I realized something. Behind us, the shadows were shifting again, and I caught a glimpse of someone just beyond our reach. Not her, I thought, but the doubt lingered. Who were they, and how were they connected to all this? I needed answers, but all I could do was run, each step echoing the growing dread in my mind. I ran without looking back, the boy's grip tight in my hand. The howls grew louder, and the shadows seemed to retreat just enough for me to find a narrow opening between the trees. "This way," I urged, pulling him into the thicket as the fog thickened behind us. We stumbled into a small clearing. My heart raced as I caught my breath, and I turned to the boy, who was now trembling beside me. "What's your name?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "Ethan," he choked out, tears still glistening on his cheeks. "Do you really think we'll find Clara?" "I have to find her," I replied, my determination reigniting. "Did you see where she went? Can you remember?" Ethan shook his head, frustration pooling in his wide eyes. "No, she was just here, and then, and—" I crouched down to meet his gaze. "Listen, we have to stay calm. We can't let the fog scare us." I glanced over my shoulder. The oppressive blanket of fog loomed behind us, swirling ominously like a creature waiting to strike. Then I noticed something odd. A faint glimmer caught my eye, a flash of white in the distance. "Do you see that?" I asked Ethan, pointing. He nodded slowly, squinting through the fog. "It looks like a light." "Let's go," I urged, springing to my feet and taking Ethan's hand once more. We pressed forward, weaving through the trees, desperate for the glimmer of hope that the light could lead us to Clara. As we stepped closer, the light flickered and danced, casting odd shadows around us. I could make out the shape of a bus stop sign, rusted and worn. But strangely enough, it stood alone, without any sidewalk or road leading to it. "That's strange," I muttered. "Why is it here?" Ethan squeezed my hand, and I could feel his nerves creeping back. "It feels weird. I don't like it," he whispered. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the fog near the bus stop. A woman, her hair tangled and wild, her dress shabby and torn. "Help me," she croaked, her voice thin and pleading. "It's not safe here. You have to go." My breath caught in my throat. Something about her unnerved me, but I couldn't turn away. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. She took a step closer, fear flashing in her eyes. "The fog. It hides things. You must leave before it gets you too." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion churning inside me. "Clara is—" She hesitated, glancing back into the fog as if hearing something I couldn't. "You have to find her before it's too late. The doll. It's important. You must leave this place." Ethan pulled at my arm. "We can't trust her. She's scary." I nodded, torn. But the mention of the doll sent a jolt through my memory. What did she know? "Wait, what do you know about the doll?" "I can't tell you here," the woman cried, the fog shifting ominously around her. "Run, now!" That was when I felt it, the chilling shift in the air behind us. The shadows were moving again, creeping closer, and I instinctively took a step back, dragging Ethan with me. The woman's face contorted in fear as she pointed away from the bus stop. "Go, now!" I didn't have time to think. I pulled Ethan along as adrenaline coursed through my veins. But as I ran, I threw one last glance back at the woman. She was fading into the fog, an echo of danger ringing in her words. But as we sprinted away, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that something was just waiting for us to falter. The shadows loomed behind us, chasing, lurking, ready to pounce. Then it hit me. What if Clara wasn't just missing? What if she was caught up in something much darker? The realization sent a shiver down my spine. "Ethan, we have to find her now," I urged, pushing forward with renewed vigor, fear morphing into desperation. But amid the chaos of the fog and the distant wails, I couldn't shake the woman's warning from my mind. The doll was key, and I had no idea what we were walking into next. We sprinted through the fog, our breaths ragged and uneven, lost in a world that felt like it was spinning out of control. The rustling of leaves and the distant howls blended into a terrifying symphony. I could still feel the weight of that woman's eyes on us, the urgency of her words echoing in my mind. "Do you think Clara is close?" Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't want to lie to him. "I hope so," I replied, trying to push the doubt from my mind. I needed to focus. "Stay close to me, all right?" He nodded, but his grip on my hand was becoming weaker. The nagging whispers of the fog around us didn't ease my worry. I had to keep that flickering light in my sight. If it was our way out, or a way to Clara, we had to reach it. Suddenly, the ground beneath us shifted. I stumbled on an exposed root, nearly losing my balance. In that moment, I saw it. A shadow darting just beyond the tree line, moving fast. "Did you see that?" I gasped, pulling Ethan to a stop. He looked terrified. "What? No. What was it?" "Something moved back there," I said, my heart racing again. "We need to keep going. Just—" Before I could finish, a chilling sound echoed through the trees, a low growl that seemed to reverberate through the ground, making it vibrate beneath us. The shadows slipped closer, almost like they were alive, and they seemed to be breathing, searching for us. "Run!" I shouted, yanking Ethan forward. We edged our way deeper into the thicket, following the distant glow that was our only hope. But as we dashed forward, another figure appeared on the edge of the clearing ahead. This time, it was a boy, older than Ethan, maybe around 12. He looked disheveled, his eyes wild as he stared back at us. "You shouldn't be here," he yelled, voice sharp with panic. "They'll get you too." "Where is Clara?" I yelled back, desperation bubbling in my throat. He hesitated, glancing behind him nervously. She didn't listen. You have to go back." "Back where?" I retorted, frustration spilling out. "We can't go back. We're trying to find her." "What doll?" the boy shouted suddenly, fear etched into his features. "What did she give you? You need to get rid of it." The mention of the doll sent a jolt through me like ice water. "What doll?" I demanded, but he didn't answer. He just kept shaking his head. "I can't stay here. You have to get away." And with that, he turned and bolted into the fog, fading into the shadows as if he had never been there at all. Ethan looked at me, confusion and fear muddling his brave little face. "What doll? What does he mean?" "I don't know," I snapped. But then I remembered. Clara always carried her old doll with her. The way she cherished that thing made me realize just how important it must be to her. "Ethan, we have to find Clara. We can't leave without her," I said, panic rising again. "But we need to be careful." Just as I turned to lead him forward again, a cold gust of wind swept through the trees, making the shadows dance wildly. That's when I saw it, a glimmer on the ground just ahead of us. "Wait, there!" We stepped closer, and my heart dropped. It was Clara's doll, lying abandoned, face down in the dirt. The once bright dress was now dulled and dirty, the porcelain head cracked. I picked it up, my fingers trembling. "Ethan, this is it. This is Clara's doll." But as I held it, a sudden dread washed over me, as if the fog had grown thicker all around, the whispers louder. I had no idea what this discovery meant or what was coming next. And then, just like that, the shadows closed in around us. I felt a sudden surge of fear as the shadows twisted around us, swallowing the faint glow of Clara's doll. I tightened my grip, but the coldness of the porcelain sent shivers down my spine. Ethan was shivering next to me. I could see it in his wide eyes, mirroring the panic I felt deep inside. "What should we do?" he stuttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just stay close," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. But deep down, that fear was growing, clawing at my thoughts. What if Clara had already been taken by whatever was lurking in the depths of the fog? I scanned the area around us, barely visible shapes morphing beyond the trees, the horrible growl now replaced by an unsettling silence. Shadows darted in the distance like whispers, teasing us, daring us to step forward. A step back instinctively, the doll feeling heavier in my hands. "No, we can't turn back. I won't leave Clara," I insisted, forcing conviction into my voice. I dropped to my knees, brushing dirt from the doll's dress. "Clara, I hope you're okay," I whispered, hoping for a miracle. My heart raced as negative thoughts flooded in. What if Clara had lost her way too? What if she didn't want to be found? Then I noticed something out of place. Nestled next to the doll was a tattered piece of paper, the edges frayed and muddy. I hurriedly picked it up, my fingers brushing against the damp surface. It looked like a sketch of a tree, a tall, crooked tree, with a red X marked right at its base. "Ethan, look at this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What is it?" he asked, peering over my shoulder. "A map? Or directions?" I wondered aloud. I could hear his little breaths, quick and nervous as he leaned closer. "It has to mean something. Or it could be a trap," he muttered, glancing nervously at the depth of the fog. I hated that he was right. The last thing I wanted was to lead us into more danger, but I also knew we couldn't just stay here. I folded the paper and shoved it into my pocket. "We need to find that tree," I said. "It might lead us to Clara." As we moved forward, the shadows seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Every turn brought new shapes, illusions dancing just beyond what our eyes could see. Just then, out of the corner of my vision, I spotted something glimmering on the ground. "Wait," I stopped, pointing to a small object. Fear mixed with hope as I moved closer. My heart stopped when I saw it. Another piece of Clara's necklace, the one she wore every day. "This can't be good," Ethan breathed. "No, it means we're close." I knelt, picking it up delicately. Clara must be near. We're on the right path. I clasped the cool metal tightly, trying to ignore the dread creeping in. Yet, before I could stand, I heard it. A soft rustling sound from the trees behind us, followed by low whispering. It seemed to form words in dark, chilling tones. My hands shook, and I felt the cold sweat on my brow. Then, from the dark of the trees, a figure stepped out. A woman. No, a shadow of a woman, cloaked in fog, her face obscured. "You shouldn't have come here," she said, her voice a haunting echo that sent chills down my spine. And just like that, everything went silent. A feeling of dread washed over me, leaving only the echo of her words hanging in the air as the shadows crept closer. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening here, it was only just beginning. I stumbled back, the weight of the doll pulling me down like lead. The fog thickened, wrapping around me as if it were alive. Ethan pulled at my arm, his fear evident in his wide eyes. "What do we do now?" he whispered, trembling. The woman's figure undulated in the haze, her eyes glimmering like embers. "You've brought her here," she hissed, and I felt the world shift beneath me. "You've awakened something you cannot control." The shadows around her seemed to pulsate, threading through the space like tendrils, reaching for us. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to keep my voice steady despite the panic rising in my chest. "What do you want?" A low laugh escaped her lips, echoing in the empty space. "You already know, don't you? The doll holds the truth." The air around us buzzed, somehow heavy with the weight of her words. "The truth about what?" I pressed, my grip tightening on the doll. I felt its surface warm against my chilling hand, almost as if it were breathing, alive. "Each decision forms a thread in the fabric of fate," she crooned, stepping closer, yet remaining shrouded in shadows. "You've made several threads already. How many more will you weave before the end?" End of what? I was losing my nerve. I couldn't allow fear to dictate my actions, not now, not when Clara needed me. There was no response, only that chilling laughter filling the night air. "She's close. Yes, the fog shows the path, but will you walk it?" Ethan grabbed my shirt, clinging to me as if I were the last solid thing in his world. "Please, let's go. We shouldn't be here," he begged. I looked back at the figure, determination surging through me. "Show me where Clara is." My voice broke, but I didn't care. I had to stand my ground. The shadows flickered around the woman, and for a moment her face twisted in a mask of anger. "Very well," she hissed, pointing a long finger towards the depths of the fog. "But know this, the path you take may not lead you back. What lost can never be reclaimed." Ethan tugged at me again, urgency etched across his features. The promise of finding Clara was beginning to fade into something sinister, and doubt crept back in. I had to choose. Taking a deep breath, I took a step forward, leading Ethan behind me into the fog. The air thickened as whispers rose like a chorus all around us, swirling, clinging to our skin like a warning. I couldn't let them distract me. We pressed on, fear gnawing at my guts. The darkness felt loud, like a breathing presence right at my back. Then, from somewhere ahead, I heard it. A faint, distant sound like a child's laughter mixed with a plea. "Clara! Did you hear that?" I exclaimed, my heart racing. Ethan nodded, eyes filled with hope. "It's her!" The laughter hung in the air like a thread, pulling at my every instinct. "Clara!" I shouted again, pushing through the fog. "Clara, Coming!" The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a silence that screamed in my ears. Everything felt too quiet, too still, and the shadows thickened. I could see nothing but swirling grayness. Then, a flicker, a faint light ahead. "We're almost there," I urged, pulling Ethan toward it. Every instinct told me that we were close. We had to be. But just as I thought we'd reach the edge of the fog, I realized the light was just the street light at the bus stop, slowly fading into view, flickering like it was barely holding on. Panic surged again. "No, no, no, Clara!" I screamed. But our surroundings were changing, and the laughter had returned, echoing from around us, mocking. "Run!" I yelled, fear overwhelming me. I turned to flee, and we dashed back through the shadows, desperately pushing against the darkness. Ethan followed behind, close yet breathing heavier, struggling to keep up. Yet the whispers of the fog called to me, inviting me to look behind. It almost felt comforting. "Stop!" a voice cried, and this time it was Clara's voice, striking through the heaviness. "Help! Clara!" I spun around. There she was, the familiar figure silhouetted against the shadows, her eyes wide with alarm, and something darker, something threatening slithered in the air around her, coiling like smoke. The fog swirled sharply as I felt the shadows inching closer to her. "Stay back!" I shouted, the shadows writhing in response, lashing out as I stepped forward. "I won't let you take her." Then everything changed. The shadows surged, and the woman, that figure from the fog, re-emerged between Clara and me. "Make your choice," she taunted, her voice layered with the echoes of so many lost souls. "Leave your friend or save yourself." "No!" I screamed, feeling the weight of despair crush me. "You can't have her." But Clara's face changed, shifting in fear. "Jessica, please, run!" she cried, desperation lacing her tone. I was torn. I wanted to tear through the fog, reach her, pull us both to safety. But as I watched those shadows swirl, I knew the darkness would stop at nothing. I heard the whispers again, taunting me to surrender, to give in. "Make your choice," the figure demanded, extending her hand toward me, and I felt a pull inside me, an irresistible call that promised safety, knowledge, a way out. Gritting my teeth, I stood firm. "I choose Clara," I shouted, feeling something shift deep within me, a strength I didn't know I had. The shadows around me shrieked, vaporizing with resistance, the air splitting in the battle between them and my resolve. But just as I moved forward, something gripped my ankle. I glanced down to see the porcelain doll slipping from my hands, falling to the ground. The moment it hit the earth, a shockwave rippled through the ground. Clara gasped, and the fog thickened. "Clara!" I screamed again, stepping forward into the chaos. The woman recoiled, shadows retracting, the doll suddenly glowing with an eerie. "No!" she shrieked, disintegrating like dust in the wind. The shadows faltered, and Clara broke through, rushing toward me. I enveloped her in my arms. "I thought I lost you." "I didn't think I'd get out," she whispered, trembling in my embrace. But then I felt the ground tremble beneath us. The light from the doll pulsed, brightening, pushing the remnants of shadow away. The fog was fading. "Come on," I urged Clara, dragging her with me as we ran toward the light that was now bright and enclosing. The shadows recoiled, the whispers turning into frantic screams, desperate to reclaim their lost. With one final push, we burst through the haze, spilling out onto the concrete of the bus stop, gasping for breath. The chill of the night air hit us, the shadows retreating behind an unseen barrier. I looked down. The doll rested on the ground, cracked and still, but somehow freed. Somehow, everything that had happened felt like a dream and a nightmare wrapped together. The bus stop that remained felt normal, but heavy with unspeakable secrets. Breathless, Clara looked at me, her expression shifting from fear to confusion. What just happened? I don't know. I shook my head, uncertainty gnawing at me. But I think we escaped, for now. And yet, as I looked back into the fog, I knew the truth of what we faced would linger. The shadow of the woman, her words haunting me still. Something was awry, and though we walked away, I didn't know if it was truly over. I hadn't found all the answers, nor had I fully understood the weight of our choices in this game of shadows. And as we stepped away from the chaos, I couldn't help but glance back one last time, the tips of my fingers brushing the cold porcelain of the doll. Maybe it had held more than just a reflection of the past. But the truth, like the fog, would forever remain layered in darkness, waiting silently to be grasped once more.